demonic forces. We'll be right back. Grab your popcorn and snacks. Find a comfy spot, take a seat or lie down, and let me transport you to a place of fantasy, ghost stories, ancient legends, odd creatures, alien encounters, and other magical topics. You may even decide to join the conversation. From faraway lands to your own backyard, with a small dash of pixie dust, turn out the lights and open your minds. The journey is about to begin. At least it cut me off better this time. Hey, everybody, welcome. We're here at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's kind of nice to be on early. My name is Charlotte. I'm going to be your host for the next hour. I'm also the owner of the California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team, based out of Sacramento, California. We're 45 strong up and down this state, which means if you think you have a paranormal need, we can help you. It may take us a while to get to you. I see it didn't do what I wanted it to do. Hang on a second. I had this whole setup. This app has been acting really weird, and I don't know why today. It's done weird things to me. Anyway, we're back. So let me get this set up here. Push my buttons. Everything should have been prearranged here. Okay. Anyway, getting back on track. You can find us on just about every social media place you can go, even TikTok, because I do a nightly show over at TikTok as well. That's not what I wanted. Hang on. See what I mean? The buttons just aren't. Okay, there we go. Finally, the right buttons. So you can find us. It might take, like I said, it might take us a couple days to get to you. California is huge. Okay. My guest tonight has been on the show a few times, and glad to have him back. Real excited. You guys had asked for him also. I want to get him on because there was a discussion going on in my chat over on TikTok. I think it was Saturday night, Friday or Saturday night, discussing demons, and there were a couple people on there who claimed to have been attacked by demons on there, and the discussion was going back and forth. And I was going to refer them to this gentleman, but then I got to thinking, well, let's see if we can get him on the show, and we could talk about this stuff because, not everybody is or gets possessed by demons. Not everybody gets attacked by demons. There's certain steps and things that happen, and despite what you actually see on TV, it's not all like that. So I figured I thought maybe my good friend Bill Bean could come on and talk to you guys about that today, because he has done a lot of battles with demons and he knows his stuff. All right, so let me bring him in, and I think you're going to enjoy the conversation today. All right, Reverend Bill Bean. Hello, sir.
There you are. How are you,
Welcome.
Charlotte? Thank you for having
Good.
me
Welcome
back.
back. I'm excited to
It's
have
great
you.
to be back with you. And, it's been a while, but I'm glad that we were able to make this happen again.
Absolutely. Tell everybody about yourself, sir.
Oh, well, my life is, it's sort of like a blur. So much has happened in my life. I started out being a victim. My family and I were victimized by demonic forces, and my family was literally destroyed by demonic forces, and I nearly was as well. I've written 12 books, and in my first book, which is called Dark Force, I said in the book that it all began in 1970 when my family and I moved into a 3-bedroom ranch style home located in Glen Burnie, Maryland, in a community called Herondale. But it actually goes much further back. And I learned that through a family member and through some very disturbing family photos that I had discovered back in 2005. And those photos go all the way back to the 1950s, where there was paranormal, supernatural, both divine and demonic phenomena taking place in some of those photographs. And the first photo of myself that indicated something supernatural was going on was taken in 1968. I was 2 years of age, and my sister was 11, and we were seated behind a toy piano, Christmas time, 1968, Polaroid photo. And she's to my left, and to her far left is this very tall, at least 7 feet tall, hooded black figure. And so that was the earliest documentation concerning myself that I
Mhm.
found this out through my mother's old family photos. After she had passed,
Mhm.
my sister had those photos for many years, and she offered some of those photos to me. And when she did, I started going through those photos, and I found some very disturbing photos, to say the least. So that was in 1968. Then in 1969, there was a photograph taken of me,
Mhm.
again, a 3-year-old boy, looked to be a spring day. Standing in front of the bushes, and I guess it was my dad that took the photograph. And it was as if a dimensional doorway had opened at that very moment, because all these different beings and entities were in the photograph with me. There appeared to be a very tall lion type of figure, something looked like it had the face of a lion over my head. Um, a gray alien looking being standing to my left,
Mhm.
other types of faces in front of the bushes all around, and even a Bigfoot Sasquatch type of face
Wow.
in the third. So, and then three humanoid type of beings that were standing behind me in single file, different sizes. So again, Charlotte, it was as if this dimensional doorway was open at that precise moment, and all these beings and entities were present and manifest. So this predates us moving into that house. And then
Mhm.
I found out that both my parents, especially my mother, had paranormal supernatural experiences in childhood, and my mother actually lived in that community in her teen years, so she had prior exposure to that area. So I and then I found out that two family members uh, over 100 years ago conjured up demonic forces, and that's what opened the door for all of this to take place. So having said all that, I believe that my parents, which I believe they were married in 56. My sister was born in 57. I was born in 1966. There was actually another child born before me in 1963, a male child, and he didn't make it. He died under mysterious circumstances. Boy, oh boy, I write about that in the book as well. And I was born in 66, and my brother was born in 1969. But
Mhm.
I believe that my parents were led to that house where evil was already present and manifest, because that area has a history of paranormal, supernatural, demonic occurrences
Mhm.
and events that have taken place. I've been back to that area several times as this spiritual warrior to help others in their homes in that community in that area. So I believe that it was the perfect storm for evil to manifest, and that's why it was so severe, because
Mhm.
the evil that was summoned by the ritual that took place actually led us to that house where evil was already present and manifest. And again, that's why it was so severe, the perfect
Mhm.
storm. And it greatly contributed to the destruction of my family. Neither of my parents lived to see the age of 50. My mother died at age 44 from a cerebral hemorrhage, and my dad was shot to death at age 48. And many other family,
Mhm.
most of my family's gone. Many other family members died under mysterious circumstances. And I suffered regular physical demonic attack between ages 5 and 12. It is only by the power of God and his love for me and his protection I'm even here. I should, and looking back on it, Charlotte, I believe, without really knowing the answer, but I truly
Mhm.
believe that God chose me for this, to
Mhm.
be this spiritual warrior before I even came into this world. And that's why I believe the devil was trying to kill me
Mhm.
before I got to this point where I'm at now in helping others by the power of God working through me. So, what a long road starting out, being a victim and suffering trauma that I wouldn't wish on anybody. But I understand it again. I could not be where I'm at right now in helping others had I not been there to suffer.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I once had a life that was so cursed that I was seeking death. And now I have a life that is so blessed that I wouldn't trade my life for anybody's life on this planet. And I can never thank God and praise God enough for that. So we're only scratching the surface
Right.
here. What a journey. I mean, I've gone on, since that time of being saved by God. The greatest decision that I ever made
Mm-hmm.
was to turn to God and make Him first, because I grew up on the streets. So I had to grow up very, very quickly. I had to quit school in the eighth grade. I lied about my age. I went to work. I was paying room and board to live somewhere
Mm-hmm.
as a young teenage boy. And I grew up on the streets. I drank. I did drugs. I was violent. I hung out with some arch criminals. God protected me through all of it. And so I say to people, no matter how bad your situation is, you can rise above it, you can overcome it. But the greatest decision that I ever made was to make God first in my life, and to say, I don't want this for my life anymore. I'm not choosing death anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm choosing life. But when these demonic strongholds are developed, and they are developed through trauma,
Mm-hmm.
and it usually starts in childhood between the ages of 3 and 5. And so when the doorway is opened for whatever momentous event that has taken place to cause the trauma, and unfortunately, in many of my cases, not all, but
Mm-hmm.
in many, it involves some type of child abuse and things of that nature. And that level of trauma opens the door. Obviously, the perpetrators are already demon filled. They're guided by demonic forces to carry out these wicked and heinous acts.
Mm-hmm.
But once that takes place, then the demons will go onto the victim,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, because of that level of trauma. And they'll stay on that person until someone like me comes along by the power of God working through me to evict those demonic forces.
Mm-hmm. My question: there's a question in the chat room about could like with your case with your family,
Sure.
could it be a family curse or something like that has to
Well, it was a family
okay.
curse. Yeah, Charlotte, it was a family curse in the sense because when those two family members conjured up those demonic forces, you better believe it, those demonic forces came in, causing that type of family bloodline curse. Absolutely. So that has to be broken. And since I've become this spiritual warrior, I have broken that curse off the family by the power of God working through me. You just wouldn't believe the things that have taken place, in the history of my family, all these untimely, the mysterious deaths and all these types of things, and just all the paranormal, supernatural aspects involved with it. Back to that house. The house sat at the bottom of a downhill cul-de-sac,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a very large and deep ravine located behind it that stretched for several miles. And the house had a very ominous look and feel about it. I was, I believe, 4 years old when we moved in. My sister was 13, and my brother was pretty much a little, almost newborn. He
Mm-hmm.
was very young. And so the first recollection of the house, I was frightened.
Mm-hmm.
You just got that ominous vibe. All life operates on frequency and vibration.
Mm-hmm.
So the basis for that, and the basis for why I'm saying that, is that when God, Yahweh is his name, spoke the world into existence, he did so through the frequency and vibration of his voice. So therefore, all life operates on that principle. So if we are on high frequency, high vibration,
Mm-hmm.
life is good, life is positive, we're moving forward. But if we're on low, it is one bad thing after the other.
Right.
It's as if the person has a black cloud over them.
Yep.
There's always a problem, a situation, a drama, and never an answer. And that's exactly right out of the devil's playbook. He does have a playbook, and he uses these tactics. So he will use these bully tactics, and it's fear based, trauma based
Mm-hmm.
tactics. So this is why people, when they're under spiritual attack, I call it parlor tricks. They'll see something move. They might hear a voice. They might see an apparition. They might have items that disappear then reappear. This is all designed to get the person into a state of fear and confusion because that lowers the frequency and vibration. And once the frequency and vibration is lowered, the person is wide open and vulnerable for demonic attack.
Now, like you mentioned earlier, trauma. I would think that a person that's going through trauma,
Yeah.
they're depressed, whatever, they're angry, is a perfect door. I mean, he sees it. Hey, okay, you're already going through this.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
going through that door.
Yeah. Yeah. The openings there.
Yeah.
Other openings are through, well, there's various. I have, I think, 14 or 15 warning signs on my website. I'll list some
Mm-hmm.
of them right now.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
Okay, so this is from my website, BillJBean.com. One, we talked about it, high level trauma that leads to experiencing demonic events and
Mm-hmm.
attacks. Two, playing with a Ouija board or invoking or inviting demonic spirits to come in, like those two family members in my family did. Um,
Right.
Fascination with the occult in dark ways. Deep depression, withdrawing from family and friends. Sudden fits of
Mm-hmm.
rage, hatred, anger, evil thoughts, hearing voices, seeing manifestations, having evil dreams, listening to satanic music, or watching satanic TV programming, suddenly developing superhuman strength, becoming physically abusive and having no memory of harming others, wanting to sleep all the time, abusing drugs and/or alcohol. There's spirits in there, Charlotte. So if a person is abusing drugs, they're under the spirit of pharmakia, which is a spirit of sorcery. If they are
Mm-hmm.
abusing alcohol as well, then that is the spirit of alcohol. That's why you see on the liquor store signs beer, wine, and spirits, because there are
Mm-hmm.
spirits attached to that stuff. And it's the
Mm-hmm.
spirits of alcohol. Um, Wanting to keep the room and home dark at all times. I've been into houses where people were under demonic attack and they painted their rooms black. The walls were all black. Cruelty to animals, feeling cursed, and wanting nothing to do with God and or
Mm-hmm.
Yahshua, Jesus the Christ. So that's just fifth than that. But when you
Mm-hmm.
come to this understanding, and again, I
Mm-hmm.
could not do any of this without the power of God working through me, without his protection, without his empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, forget it. And be like the seven sons of Sheba in the Bible, got ripped
Right.
apart by demons. But anyway, I'm thankful that he put this calling on me. This is a
Mm-hmm.
calling. So I've had people, asking me to train them and offering large sums of money to train. I turned down. This has to be a calling from God. This isn't something, and there's plenty of charlatans out there that, and they know who they are. More importantly, God knows who they are, and so they'll tell you they're sitting down and having conversations with demons and asking them about the. Get out of here. These people are insane and they have no idea what they're bringing on themselves. This is something not to be taken lightly. If ever there was the disclaimer, don't try this at home or whatever, don't do it, because this is something, in
Right.
my opinion, that has to be a calling from God. Otherwise, you are putting yourself at great risk and you're putting your family and friends and loved ones at great risk as well. So, this is very, very dangerous. And I have seen and experienced things that most people couldn't even fathom in their minds or wouldn't want to have their worst dream about. I've come face to face with demons. I've been under physical demonic attack, as I mentioned, between ages 5 and
Mm-hmm.
12. And God has worked through me to evict demonic spirits that manifested right in front of me. So this is something that, a lot of people, they'd faint, they'd scream, they'd soil themselves, they'd run. And it's only by the power of God that
Yep.
those things didn't happen to me. And I was able to take power and authority over that stuff and bind and rebuke it and cast it out.
Well, see, that's why when I was talking about the chat from the other night over there on TikTok, that's where the concern came. I had somebody who says they're psychic, right, giving advice to a woman that claims that she's being attacked by a demon. And I said, look, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been ghost hunting for 20 years. You don't play with this stuff. Don't give advice
That's
because you're
right.
not qualified to give advice. You need to talk to somebody that knows what they're doing. And that's why I thought, hey, I want to see if I can get Bill Bean to come back on, have a chat about this stuff because people don't, like you say, people don't realize how dangerous it is by even saying get out of
Oh,
my house and yelling at it,
yeah.
how it's going to provoke it even more.
Charlotte, it is this is a very super dangerous type of thing. And I thank you for thinking of me and for asking me to come back on because in today's world, more and more people are coming under demonic attack as a result
Mm-hmm.
of the ways of the world, especially the things that are taking place in America. It is all designed to
Mm-hmm.
keep the people on low frequency, low vibration. So, again,
Mm-hmm.
when the people are lowered, their frequencies and vibrations, then they become wide open and vulnerable for these demonic attacks. Furthermore, we see a saturation of programming, and whether that is TV shows or in the music or on the social media or whatever it is, there are those out there that are willfully and gleefully, joyfully performing these demonic summonings and demonic rituals,
Yep.
those in Hollywood and everywhere else. I mean, these people that are influencers or they're performers and they've got millions of people following them and they are doing these types of things right in plain sight. And it's unfortunate
Mm-hmm.
because the people that are mostly invested in these types cannot see it. They can't see it. They fall for it every time. And then they become immersed in it. And then they will come under
Mm-hmm.
spiritual attack. So, yes, you're right. There is a
Mm-hmm.
blinding out there like you wouldn't believe. And so
Mm-hmm.
I pray that God will sort of flip things around and bring forth an awakening that people will
Mm-hmm.
see this for what it is and then turn away from it.
Question in the chat room: are you a Catholic priest?
No, I'm non-denomination. I I love all people and I have nothing against anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But let's just say I don't believe the official story, and there's a lot more to the story. And I'm completely led and guided by God. Does that make me perfect? Absolutely not. Do I claim to be perfect? No. But I can tell you this,
Mm-hmm.
I try my best to do my best to be my best each and every day because I have to rely on God working through me to help people every single day of my life. You wouldn't believe it, Charlotte. It's almost like I'm a 24/7 type of operation. I get to bed after 7 a.m. every morning. That's when I go to bed. And I'm up all night. I do, if I'm not traveling, then I do remote sessions with people via Skype, Zoom, phone, whatever it may be, from all over the world. You know, I've helped thousands of people by the power of God working through me all over America and in 60 other countries as well. And so that can only be done by the power of God. I thank Him and praise Him for it. But there's always a next person. There's always somebody in need. And
Mm-hmm.
there are always people that, even though God's worked through me to help them, this is people really don't quite understand the whole crux of this. Okay. Yes, God works through me to bind and rebuke and cast out demons off of people, places, and things. Yes, but it is more than that. Okay. So not only am I this spiritual warrior, I am a spiritual counselor. I have to, a lot of these people want to have further sessions with me because it's about bringing forth change in their lives. So, this is where counselor comes in, life coach, all these different
Yep.
types of hats that I wear.
Mm-hmm.
So, it is far more involved than some guy
Mm-hmm.
just coming in and casting out demons. And it's
Mm-hmm.
about eliminating and closing the doors that were opened that gave access to this evil coming in. Now we got to
Mm-hmm.
close those doors and shut and lock and chain them. And then we have to start a new game plan, fresh and new for the person's life in moving forward in what I call warrior mode, which is faith, strength,
Mm-hmm.
and courage. So we have to eliminate the fear based, trauma based way of thinking and living
Mm-hmm.
and trade that for warrior mode. And it is not easy. It is,
Mm-hmm.
so I say this all the time, life is not a race, it is an endurance
Mm-hmm.
contest. And
Mm-hmm.
so part of the endurance, the biggest part, is developing that level of faith. So if we can,
Mhm.
again, trade the fear based, trauma based for blessed assurance that God is with us and for us, and He will help us
Mhm.
through anything, through our darkest hour. He will pull us out of the pit. He'll help us and surge us forward. It won't be easy, but I'll guarantee it, if we can maintain a real and authentic and consistent relationship with the creator of the universe, trusting in
Mhm.
him, our lives won't become perfect, but they will become very good and very blessed.
This is something you brought that up that people don't realize about ghost hunter, paranormal investigators like me. When I go out to do an initial investigation for the preliminary, I'm looking for things like the Reverend is. We're asking them about their personal lives. What is going on with your
Yeah.
personal life right now? Have you guys been fighting? Is somebody taking drugs? Are you on medications? What's going on? Because we're also looking at that. I mean, that's our thing. We have to document this stuff because if it gets to a
Right.
point where we realize it's not that it's something that is darker, we have to hand it off. We have to hand it off to people
And
like Reverend Bean.
you're right, Charlotte. And this is why I say, look, I don't want to know people's deep and dark junk and
Mhm.
secrets, but I have to know it because when I'm
Mhm.
involved in this, we have to get this stuff up and out
Mhm.
and off so we can break every legal right that the devil has to that individual. And that's all part of the eviction process.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what we do as well. So you guys have to
Yeah.
understand that there is a process because we have to figure out, what's going on with you. Why are you seeing these things? Maybe you're under stress, poltergeist activity. Maybe you're under stress. Maybe it's a lot more than that. But that's what we have to figure out. I know our questionnaire is 150
Good for
questions when we go
you.
out trying to
Yeah,
figure things
good for
out.
you. And that's, again, and that's being professional and thorough and really being authentic and caring about the person or persons and really digging and getting to the bottom and unlocking whatever it is that could be the catalyst to the whole thing. So
And I
good
know
for
dang
you.
well, when it gets to a certain point, I can look and go, look, this is over our head. We need to go to somebody else. We need to hand this off to somebody that does this because you get
Yeah.
hurt. Like you're right, you get hurt so fast without even realizing it. It'll stick to you. It may not get you right away either. It may get you 2, 3 years down the line. After you've handled the case. So
I've
you got to
seen
be
it,
really, really
Charlotte.
careful.
I've seen it. I've been in situations where several priests were brought in and they were all attacked, thrown down the stairs, and all this kind of
Mhm.
stuff. I've seen it. I've seen people's lives destroyed as a result of it in my career. Uh,
Mhm.
the three most painful cases in my career, the most painful, obviously, is the suffering of my mother, who suffered
Mhm.
more than any person I've ever seen in my life. And I've been involved in probably
Mhm.
the low thousands of cases now. And, but the three most heartbreaking cases in my career were three individuals that God had worked through me to had delivered from evil, and they seemed to be doing well. And then all of a sudden, there was a trigger that
Mhm.
opened a doorway, and it had to be the person's free will and intent as well, unfortunately. And they went back to doing things that opened the doorway in the first place. And those three individuals that I'm thinking of right now,
Mhm.
over probably 15-year period of time committed suicide. I was
Right.
so those are, I can think about all the successes and that's wonderful, but those three kick me in the
Mhm.
gut and stay with me more than anything because those were three that were lost and just it's horrible. It's awful. I want, God to work through me to save everybody, but you're going to
Right.
have, unfortunately, due to free will, um, and circumstances that will open a doorway for the person to make choices that they shouldn't have gone back to make,
Mhm. Mhm.
contributed to them, ending their lives.
Mhm. How do you prepare to go out? Like, if somebody contacts you and says, "Reverend Bean, I think I'm being attacked by a demon." What? How do you handle that? What's the process?
Well, first, if somebody sends me a message, and again, I get messages every day from people from all over the world, and I
Mhm.
try to get back to people as quickly as I can. Um,
Mhm.
First thing I do when I receive a message like that I don't claim to be anything, Charlotte, but I'll say this to you. God gives me a knowing of things, okay? And
Mhm.
so it's a level of spiritual discernment. So, A, I'll automatically know if this is real and authentic or not.
Mhm.
And B, then, I pray and ask God to guide me, give me a better understanding, a complete understanding before I reply.
Mhm.
And then, when I do reply, I always rely on God to give me the words, the perfect words to reply back
Mhm.
to the person. So we start a dialogue, and then it is coming down to a sharing of information to where the person starts to share, everything about their life and what
Mhm.
may have opened the door in the first place for this to come in. So it's that initial back and forth to where I come to the proper understanding of what is taking place, and
Mhm.
then I go from there, and we let God
Mhm.
go from there.
Now, do you like? I know the Catholic priests will fast before they do this. Do you do anything like that to
Yeah,
get ready to prepare for that?
absolutely. Sure, there's a prayer and fasting, and then just a complete trust in God. So here's another thing that I do.
Mhm.
I try to fill myself, and I do this often and every morning before bed, and before these uh, exorcism, spiritual deliverances as well.
Mhm.
I fill myself with godly, holy music, high frequency, high vibration, including church bells, because church
Mhm.
bells, all bells for that matter, they give a frequency and vibration that absolutely will chase evil off like you will. So these are divine frequencies from Yahweh. And so
Mhm.
this is why this could be another show. They have gotten rid of most of the church bells, in America.
Mhm.
By and large, the church bells are gone, and that's why, because they know that the frequencies and vibrations from the church bells will evict evil. These are godly divine frequencies. And so I
Mhm.
fill myself, my temple, with holy music, divine frequencies, and therefore I have the power of God within me, outside of
Mhm.
me, all around me, and it is His power working through me to be up for
Mhm.
any and every challenge to evict evil.
Mhm.
And I am
How
eternally
many
grateful
cases?
for that. So it is absolutely. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Charlotte.
Oh no, sorry, that's my fault. I'm sorry, sir. How many cases have you done over the years and
No, no,
helped
no. Go
people?
ahead.
How many cases
It's in the
have
low
you
thousands.
in the low thousands? Okay, low thousands.
Yeah. Oh, easy. Yeah, because
Yeah.
this is worldwide. I mean, people. What put me on the map was I started giving interviews in 1996, and it
Mhm.
started out with 21st Century Radio, Dr. Bob Hieronymus in Baltimore. He's the guy that put me on the map as far as giving interviews or whatever. But then in 2000, I want to say 2006, my family story aired on the A Haunting series. I think it was September
Mhm.
7th, 2006. And that's what put me on the international map. And so then people started contacting me for help from all over the world. And so that's where it began. And I would say, again, since that time, Charlotte, it's got to be in the low thousands. I lost count a long time ago.
Mhm.
Everything is a blur to me. The only time that I can even take time to recollect on some things is when I'm doing interviews like this. But when you do something like this so much,
Mhm.
it really does. All the travel, it's all a blur.
Mhm.
There are things that do stand out. I mean, I've had 2014, there was a case with a lady that was completely demonically possessed. God worked through me to have performed the exorcism and to have delivered her from evil. And then after that's over with, I have to go through the house
Mhm.
and make sure that there's nothing evil hiding or lurking anywhere in there, because they'll
Right.
go anywhere,
They'll hide.
especially the dark places, the basements, the closets, under the beds, where there's portals, you got to close those portals too. And so it was during this, it was a very large house. I'd gone through the entire house from the basement now all the way up to this third floor, which I guess was an attic,
Mhm.
and it was converted into a master bedroom.
Mhm.
And I go up this wide set of stairs, and there was a lamp to my right that was on. Blessed that side. Um, then the other side was dark, and there was a double window over there on the right, and it was the double window and then a ventilation shaft,
Mhm.
probably 6 feet or so away from it. And so I'm headed over that way. It's all dark now, not completely dark, because the moonlight was coming through the double window there. So I get over to that, and then standing before me within 10 feet was this entity that I've seen many times throughout my lifetime, throughout my childhood and adult years, and then, becoming this spiritual warrior, easily 7 feet tall, black, looked like it
Mhm.
was hooded, glowing red eyes, looked like it had wings that were folded in because it had like these points that came above the shoulders.
Mhm.
And now think about what I'm saying to you. I'm within 10 feet of this entity, and I had a Bible in the left hand, and I use a holy mixture of holy water, holy oil, holy water, and holy salt, and frankincense as well.
Mhm.
And I stood there. It was surreal. Just looking back on it right now, it was just absolutely surreal, but familiar at the same time, because I'd encountered this many times before throughout my lifetime.
Mhm.
So it was nothing new to me.
Mhm.
And I remember shouting, and you have to be loud and authoritative, because if you've got the power of God working through you, you can't have any fear. If you have any fear, you're finished. You're done. The people you're trying to help are done, because that's now a lack of faith. You're taken over by fear. And so I shouted in an authoritative voice, by the mighty power of Yahweh in his mighty and holy name, in Yahshua Jesus Christ's name, I bind and rebuke you and cast you out, command you to depart. And I shook that 3 times. And that thing let out a screech and a scream like I have never heard before or since. It was so loud, it shook all the windows in the house before it departed.
Mm.
I will
Wow.
never, ever forget that. Now, think about what I just said, because
Yeah.
again, a lot of people would faint, they'd scream, they'd soil themselves, they'd run. And it was only by the power of God that I didn't do those things, that I was able to
Mhm.
withstand it. And not only withstand it, but to take power and authority over it, and bind and rebuke and cast it out and evict it.
Wow.
I'll never ever forget it as long as I live. I've had several other similar type of encounters over the years. I've seen it all. The only thing that I haven't seen is a person's head turn all the way around, but I've seen levitation, a person levitate. I've seen the eyes go to all white, all black,
Mhm.
all red. In one case, um, like a greenish yellowish with reptilian slits. I've seen body parts move and twist in ways that the human body cannot, without bones breaking or
Mhm.
ligaments tearing. Um, Voices, deep masculine voices coming out of females, quoting scripture,
Mhm.
speaking in other languages and dialect. I remember one case comes to mind right now. I think it was in 2017. I had to, by the power of God working through me, cast out at least 30 different demons, because you're casting one out, another one manifests. You're casting that one out, another one manifests.
Mhm.
And so this was one of the most exhaustive exorcisms and deliverances that I had ever done. And I just recall, after it was all over with, I had to go to a nearby diner, and I sat there with my head in my hands, just completely exhausted, and praying that God would give me the energy to be able to leave there and get back in my vehicle and drive home. And And he did. He always does.
Mm-hmm.
But you just wouldn't believe it, Charlotte. I mean, I've done things that are supernatural in itself that a
Mm-hmm.
human being shouldn't be able to do
Mm-hmm.
without either some type of mental or physical breakdown. Um, 48 hours without sleep, traveling from one coast to the other, getting back on the plane the next morning, traveling back, and then traveling someplace else.
Mm-hmm.
And then well, there's more than one, but one that comes to mind, going to 7 cities and towns in 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
And it ended with a little church on a mountaintop in Hazard, Kentucky, ice, snow. I drove up the mountain in the ice and snow and performed spiritual deliverance for at least 50 people that night. They lined up down the aisle. I was already exhausted. 7 cities in 3 days, and countless people, God worked through me to have helped. And it ended with that, performing at least 50 deliverances for people that lined up coming down the aisle. And that was another time that when I got down to the bottom of the mountain there, I stopped. I think it was a Waffle House. And I went in there and just had my head in my hands, just trying to recover. And I had to make I think it was a 12 or 13-hour drive home
Hmm.
from there. I was already exhausted, and God helped me. So this is all supernatural in itself.
Right.
People have no idea when you're operating in these types of realms. This is all the supernatural realms, and it is not possible for a man to do some of the things that
Mm-hmm.
God has worked through me to have done.
Mm-hmm. I can tell you, I've only seen one, and it was in a garage. This lady was living out in the middle of the country, and it was about the size, about 4 feet tall, looked like a penguin with red eyes, whatever this thing was. And I said,
I
okay, we're
believe
not
it.
dealing with
There were
this.
many different
Yeah,
types of
let's
them. I
get out
believe
of
it.
here. The night of the investigation, we were waiting on the pastor to come by. I went in the house first. I could see this thing running up and down the halls. And then at one point, when we went to prep the garage, you could smell vomit in the garage when we went in there.
Mm-hmm.
And it started to mock me. It started to mock one of my investigators' voices. It was trying to call me from a darkened corner, call me over to it from a darkened corner of the garage. And I pulled the team out and I said, all right, everybody out in the yard. We're not going in. Let the pastor go in. We're done. This is it. We've gone as far as we're going to go with this. Because whatever this thing is, it's
Yeah.
not happy having us here. And that's what we did. Then
Oh
we
no.
had the pastor come through. But we were out in the yard and I said, nope, I'm drawing the line.
It's a wise decision, Charlotte, because again, this stuff is life threatening.
Yeah.
People don't realize how dangerous this is.
Mm-hmm.
People can lose their lives over
Mm-hmm.
this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So when, like I,
So good for you. Um, Go ahead.
so like I said, when somebody calls you and let's say, like in my chat the other night, I don't want to make fun of anybody or anything like that. When somebody gets in my chat and says, "Oh, I think I'm possessed by a demon," are there people that like you say, because there's people that will egg it on because they think it's funny or whatever. I mean, are there people like that are just doing it for attention? To say, "Hey, I think I'm possessed by a demon."
Some yes,
Mhm.
and some no. Some, when they have a level of depression, this can bleed in
Mhm.
to lowering the frequency and vibration to where a person comes under a demonic stronghold or demonic oppression, which can lead to possession. So this is all a
Mhm.
game of wear down.
Mhm.
So the entry access point begins, and many times it begins through trauma, and then it is a game of bully tactics, fear-based, trauma-based tactics.
Mhm.
Divide and conquer. They want the person to become isolated. So
Right.
when they get the target isolated, then they want to go to work, and really start to wear that target down.
Mhm.
And to the point to where either the person's ready to commit suicide or they're just given up
Mhm.
the will to live
Mhm.
and the will to fight. And that's how a full demonic possession can take place. So yes, I've encountered people like that. I've also encountered people that were fabricating
Okay.
because they wanted the attention. They wanted me to get them on TV and all that. So I've encountered all those types of things. I've also encountered a few situations where the people were practicing witchcraft,
Mm-hmm.
and they got upset because I was binding and rebuking and telling them to take down their occultic things, and they
Right.
got upset with me. I mean, just so you name it, I have been involved in it and I have seen it. And so yes, there is a fine line between those that are actually experiencing things, and then those that are enthusiasts or those that are seeking attention.
Mm-hmm.
So they will, do anything by any means necessary to get that attention.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there's a fine line to everything,
Mm-hmm.
that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. When you talk about your different cases and stuff, how many have involved children?
A lot. Um, Boy, I can think of a couple disturbing cases involving children, and that's the worst because I love all people, but
Mm-hmm.
boy, I can't stand to see people being victimized, especially children. It enrages me,
Mm-hmm.
and I have been involved in some of those cases, and it's just awful. And God has worked through me
Mm-hmm.
to have evicted the garbage, from the children. But it's an awful, awful thing to see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yes, I take the sufferings of all people very seriously and very personally, especially the sufferings of children.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now this thing wants to provoke you, as the person that's coming in to clean up the mess. Does God work with you to stay calm with these things? Because I mean, these things can be, like you say, infuriating, especially where
Yeah,
kids are concerned.
yeah, you got to be in control, and
Mm-hmm.
that's my whole deal is being in control of the situation. Now I can only do that by the power of God working through me.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm given over to a spirit of fear,
Mm-hmm.
or if I lose my focus in some way, shape, or form, then I'm not in control. So I have to be in complete control of the situation. It's only by the power of God that I can remain in control and remain steadfast in faith, knowing that God's with me and for me, and He's chosen me
Mm-hmm.
to be this spiritual warrior, to be there to evict this garbage and to help the person or persons. And so it's all about being in that level of control. Many cases are coming to mind as you're asking that. And,
Sure.
one case in particular, uh, with a family in Chicago, the whole family was under attack, but two of the family members were specifically targeted
Mm-hmm.
in worse ways than the rest of the family. And so I performed exorcism, spiritual deliverance for those family members.
Mm-hmm.
And having the family gathered in the home in front of this fireplace,
Mm-hmm.
as I was praying, there were stones in the bottom of that fireplace, like decorative type of stones. And they started moving and rattling as I was praying and binding and rebuking and casting out. Then all of a sudden, and this is wintertime in Chicago, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All these things started hitting the house on the outside. It sounded like lawnmowers and machinery turned on and all this kind of stuff. We actually walked outside. There was nothing or no one out there. And all this was taking place as it was evicted. Now, I mentioned a few minutes ago about portals.
Mm-hmm.
So, as part of this eviction process, I have to close all portals above the home, below the home, to the sides of the home, and inside of the home
Mm-hmm.
that the devil and those demons are using for access to those family members.
Mm-hmm.
And so, oftentimes, Charlotte, there are portals that are like in
Mm-hmm.
closets. Closets are the most prevalent for whatever reasons.
Yeah.
I guess because it's hidden in the bedroom or whatever. Under the bed as well, there have been portals there, and there's actually portals in the center of some walls that I've had to close. But basements, in the dark, hidden places,
Mm-hmm.
that's where these portals will develop. They can develop into on the roof and the ceiling as well to come through that way. They can, and up underneath, yes, they can. But in most cases, it's in the closets, in the basements,
Mm-hmm.
things of that nature. And I have to be very thorough in making sure that all those portals are closed.
Mm-hmm. How hard is it to close a portal?
It's just about invoking the power of God. So if
Mm-hmm.
I were standing, in a home, I'd say, by the mighty power of Yahweh and his mighty and holy name, in Yahshua Jesus the Christ's name, I declare this portal or all portals above this home, below this home, to the sides of this home, and inside of this home to be closed, shut, locked, chained, and padlocked to the devil and his minions from this moment forward. Father, I ask that you have a giant warrior angel
Mm-hmm.
guarding every closed portal 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for
Mm-hmm.
life.
Mm-hmm.
And I declare this home, this space, and every single thing in it to be blessed, sealed, sanctified, purified, cleansed, and made holy.
Mm-hmm.
Peace is here and peace shall remain.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much how it goes.
Question I have too is like, and I know with some of these things, just what I've read, and TV is TV, but um, for the
Yeah.
person to call you if they're under attack, is it usually family members or friends that end up calling you saying, "Hey, my buddy's under attack or my kid's under attack"? Because I would think that the person that's under attack wouldn't really realize they're under attack to even be able to call you.
If a Right, if a person, in most cases, if a person is truly demonically possessed, they wouldn't be the ones calling me for
Mm-hmm.
help. It would be a family member or a loved one, someone close that would contact me. But then, see, here's a tricky area here too, Charlotte. I can't just go bursting through the door to a person that may be possessed.
Mm-hmm.
I have to have their consent because this comes down to free will as well. And so, if I've gotten the consent, then yes, we have. But if the person says no, get out of here, I don't. My hands are tied. All I can do is pray for them at that point because they have used their free will to say that they don't want me or any help from God to, and that's entirely up to them. So again, it all comes down to free will.
Now, I went through this, and I'm sure you have gone through this too. When I was first doing this, I remember how I made myself available 24 hours a day because I always felt bad for the people. I always thought, okay, I'm
Yeah,
here to talk to you. I'm here to help you get through this. But then after a while, it really takes a toll on you. So at some point, you have to get to a point.
sure does.
Yeah, you have to get to a point where you're like, okay, the phone's turning off at 9 o'clock. That's it. I'm sorry. I'm not taking calls. Did you have to go through something like that to get to where you're at now?
No, it's ongoing for me. But what you're saying is very true, and I've had periods throughout my career where I was suffering serious burnout,
Mm-hmm.
and only by the power of God that restore me and bring me back, full strength. Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, this is something that could cause a breakdown in a person. It could cause a person to start drinking alcohol, trying to escape drugs, anything. Uh, so this is for me, and I'm thankful to God that in those periods of burnout, He helped me to maintain and then started to rejuvenate me. But all the while, as we're sitting here doing this interview, my phone, it never stops. I can't have my ringer on anymore because it would be a full-time job just answering all the calls and the texts and the
Mm-hmm.
emails and all that kind of stuff. So I don't have my ringer on anymore. I get back to everybody, but I have to manage that and maintain that to where it's not causing me to have a heart attack or stroke
Mm-hmm.
or a complete breakdown. I praise God for working through me to be able to maintain all that and to um, just continue to have stronger than steel faith in Him that He's always going to get me through no matter
Mm-hmm.
what. And I can't describe in words to you the feeling that I have
Mm-hmm.
when I know that God's worked through me to help someone, because I mentioned those 3 cases of suicide,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't tell you how many cases there have been where the person was ready to commit suicide that God worked through me to bring them back
Mm-hmm.
off the edge and to help them to save their lives. And they went on to have a quality of life. So
Mm-hmm.
there are many of those types of cases that I'm very grateful and thankful for. But boy, oh boy, there's a variety of ways that could bring forth destruction in a person that is
Mhm.
doing this kind of work.
Mhm.
And this is why I say, unless God's calling you to do it, forget it,
Mhm.
because this is the ultimate danger in dealing with these types of things. And
Mhm.
God has saved me every single time. And even before this life of becoming this spiritual warrior, uh, I had many life threatening. I've been in so many life threatening situations throughout my lifetime. You just wouldn't believe it. I've written about it
Mhm.
in some of my books, and it's all true. And God saved me every single time. And now I know, A, why I was in a life threatening situation, because the devil wanted me dead, did not
Mhm.
want me to be in this position. And B, God was with me every single time to ensure that I was going to be in this position, that He was going to work through me to help people.
Are there days when you're exhausted after after
Yeah,
rescuing someone? I
yes,
can imagine.
yes, absolutely. And, these days I try not even to fly anymore. I am, uh, number one, I'm burned out
Mhm.
from so many flights and hotel rooms and all that stuff. And then with the current situation of our airline industry now in America, I'm not too keen to go jump on a plane
I
now anyway.
gotcha.
So I try to drive everywhere. And there's times I'll drive up to 15 hours each way, to help somebody. Um, and then a lot of times coming back on that trip, I am exhausted from what God has, worked through me to do,
Mhm.
plus exhausted from a lack of sleep and having to drive that type of distance. There are times that I've driven 15 hours, went, helped the person, left, went and got something to eat, jumped back in my vehicle, and drove all the way back home
Wow.
15 hours on no sleep. That is supernatural. That
Mhm.
is a human being can't do that. And
No.
again, this is where God comes in
Mhm.
to make something like this to be possible.
Mhm.
And so I at all times have to be grateful and thankful and aware that God is helping me to do things that really in every average, everyday, ordinary circumstances are not possible.
Reverend,
So I'm eternally grateful to Him for that, brother.
thank you for coming on. It was wonderful to talk to you. It's always fun to talk to you, and hear what you have
Well, I
to
look
say.
forward to coming back on again.
Okay,
So I'm looking forward to the next time.
sounds
And
good.
and God bless you and everybody out there that's been watching. Thank you so
Well,
much.
thank
And
you. I
if
can't
you
wait to
don't
talk to you
mind,
again.
before
It's
I
always fun.
go,
I can say
I'll give my.
I
I'm looking
I
forward
can
to
pick
it,
your
and I'll
brain.
give my website real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, we could have a series of shows. And thank you again, Charlotte, and thank you to everybody out there that's watching. And if you're in need,
Mhm.
just visit www.billjbean.com, billjbean.com,
Mhm.
and you can send a message to me directly from the site. I'll get back to you as quickly as I can, and I'll do everything that I can by the power of God working through me to help you.
All right, thank you. You have a great
Thank you
rest.
so much,
Yeah,
Charlotte. God bless
you
you.
have a great rest of your week, sir. Bye bye. Guys, I can pick his brain for hours. I'll tell you that because man, I learned so much from him and over the years, and I will definitely have him come back on to talk to us and stuff. All right, tomorrow, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, usual time, regular time for the show. Brooks Agnew is going to be joining us. Brooks Agnew is a unique individual. Just to get that out there, that his opinions and thoughts do not reflect us. I'm just going to say that, and he likes to talk about. Um, sometimes conspiracy stuff, sometimes hidden news, stuff you don't hear on the news, right? Just that way. So he's going to be with us at 5:30 p.m. Pacific tomorrow. And of course, Friday night, Nancy Matz will be back with us. We're going to be talking about psychic powers and how people do readings and things like that. So we're going to have a great night coming up with that. This weekend, Saturday, probably around 2 or 3 p.m., we're going to be going live from TikTok and we're going to be going to Mel's Drive In. So we're going to take you guys to lunch with us. Remember tonight as well, 7 p.m. Pacific. I will be over on TikTok doing some 3 card psychic readings for you guys. So come on in, enjoy the fun. It's a fun atmosphere, and we have a great time over there. It's under California haunts for you guys that don't normally go over there. All right, I'll see you later today, and hope you have a great rest of your afternoon. I hope I was able to educate you a little bit about demons and things like that. All right, have a good one, everybody.